Okay, I might have overdid it a little bit. Here I come. Here I come. What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, let me mute this. Let me mute my Mac. All right, there we go. There we go. We back. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, chicken, eggs, and ham. All that good stuff. It is your boy Tiger. Welcome back to Tiger Thinks. Today we have a doozy for you. We have the best display of a cat fight, the most egregious form of white on white violence, and that is known as debate. This is going to be the biggest debacle between white people since the Nordic Saxon Wars. Without further delay, we're going to get into the hey, I am your man Tiger Thinks, and we are doing a little bit of what the feminists would call mansplaining. We are taking the womanese, digesting it, and breaking down what these ladies were saying and doing. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Here's the clip. Here's the hook. Here's the thing that blew up and made this debate watchable.
Feminists say
okay, so give your girl Pearl, give her her flowers for being a professional rage baiter, because that was magnificent. She got this lady so flustered. She said something, and you know, as women do, she doubled down and didn't say, hey, I didn't mean to say that. She didn't correct none of that. She basically lost all her credentials just from doing that right there. Pearl rage baited her. She got her, and she interjected when she wasn't supposed to. But that's about that. I think that's at the 40-minute mark, 42-minute mark, somewhere around there. We'll get to it. But let's start it out. We have Anna Kasparian versus Pearl Davis. Turn the. Can you guys hear me good? Put some ones in the chat if you can hear me good. All right. Turn the channel song down a little bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, this debate, our main card, has a little bit of a different format than what we did previously. We're going to have the opening statements for both of you. Those will be 5 minutes apiece. Then you'll each get 10 minutes to kind of do an interrogatory of the other. That will go back and forth. And then after that, we'll go into open debate.
Is that him? Did he Photoshop himself, or did he just gain like 10 pounds? Because that doesn't look like him, but that's besides the point. We're just getting a little distracted.
As you saw with some of the other debates
nice blazer though.
Earlier, we try to let the other person answer. I'll try to jump in as I can, but for the most part, I want you all to mix it up. All right? Have fun with it.
Sounds good.
And who is first?
I'm first.
I thought so. Anna, take it away. We got 5 minutes.
In a May 2024 appearance on
Damn, she dressed like a school teacher.
Tim Pool's Culture War podcast, my opponent, Pearl Davis, declared that women aren't really doing much. We're not having kids. We're not really contributing to the economy when you look at output. In fact, she uses this ridiculous assertion to argue that women should not have the right to vote. While it's true the birth rate has declined, and we'll revisit that in a bit, women account for 47% of the American workforce. The Council of...
Yeah, but women women are 50% of the population, so there's a dismantlement right there. I mean, you don't have to be a genius or hyper educated to know that in most parts of the world, the population is about a 50-50 split for men and women.
Economic advisors found that women have contributed a substantial portion of the U.S. economic growth since 1970, which wouldn't have been made possible without the feminist movement. By 2017, women were responsible for nearly 40% of total gross domestic product, amounting to a whopping 7.6.
Wait, I gotta hear that again.
By 2017, women were responsible for nearly 40% of total gross domestic product, amounting to a whopping $7.6 trillion.
Okay, and America makes $27 trillion a year. I know that's a fact. So, or generates or claims 27 million. But if women, I gotta hear that one more time because women are not putting up that many ballpark numbers.
Substantial portion of the US economic growth since 1970, which wouldn't have been made possible without the feminist movement. By 2017, women were responsible for nearly 40% of total gross domestic product, amounting to a whopping $7.6 trillion.
Okay, so Hannah is dismantling something that Pearl said, and Pearl said that women basically are contributing an equivalent amount of production to men, even though they've had a good stint of time to catch up. And then she just said that women contributed to 40% of the GDP, which does not sound correct at all. And I would argue how much of that is actually just pornographic in nature. 40%? That doesn't sound right. Okay, even even if it was a 1-to-1 ratio, and then somebody could argue the pay gap. If women are 46% of the population or 50% of the population, and they made up 46% of the GDP, where's the other 4%?
Of course, that figure doesn't include the trillions of dollars in unpaid labor women do every year tending to the household, raising children, and caring for ailing parents. And when it comes to certain sectors of our economy, women are a
How's she gonna slip in elder care? Elder care would be gender neutral.
dominant and indispensable force. Like in the healthcare industry, where they make up nearly 80% of workers, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's 16.4 million women. When it comes to education, in 1960, women earned less than 35% of all bachelor's degrees. Today, they earn roughly 58%.
Hey, I appreciate all of y'all in the chat. Would you, if you would not mind, please vote in the poll.
Of all bachelor's degrees, which Pearl herself benefited from after graduating from Elmhurst University. Women also earn over 60% of master's degrees. I hope to hear Pearl explain how a more educated and skilled population somehow translates to cultural decline, especially as we compete with China in this increasingly multipolar world. The modern feminist movement also had a major impact on decreasing domestic violence, and that's according to the US Department of Justice. Rates of intimate partner violence decreased by more than 60% from 1994 to 2010.
Yeah, that's because women started dating other women, and when they beat on each other, they don't tell anybody.
And that's thanks to protective order statutes and funding for shelters beginning in the 19th.
And chat, I know this is completely anecdotal, but I see more abusive relationships where it's the woman abusing the man than the man abusing the woman. Like my neighbors are in an age gap relationship, and my female neighbor is 28, 29, and her boyfriend is like 43, 44, somewhere on. And she hits him, she verbally eviscerates him. She does everything that an abuser would do. And she's smaller than him, but he is really annoying. I mean, that doesn't make it right, but still, I that's just me. I think it's because I live in a city, but I see women beating up men way more than men beating up women.
1970s and 80s.
Hey, okay, that's not even a good introductory point to say that women are contributing to society by getting beat less, because that's just something that's pro women. That's not actually pro society.
Not only did the two-income household become more financially resilient, especially during economic downturns, women gained the ability to leave abusive relationships, an outcome correlated with improved child health and educational attainment.
Well, America has always been piss poor in education and health. As far as you can compare like large nations, we've never even been in top 10 for education ever.
A culture that protects people from violence is not one that's indicative of cultural decline. Pearl herself has benefited greatly from the feminist movement, thanks to Title IX in 1972, signed by Nixon, of course. Sex-based discrimination in any school program or activity that receives federal funding is prohibited. Pearl herself had a rather impressive record playing for Elmhurst University's volleyball team, having earned all conference honors as a senior.
Chat, I really don't think women fight for their rights accurately, because tampons, pads, feminine products in general are taxed as a luxury import, and condoms aren't. And I just think if men had to buy feminine products and call them masculine products, they would actually not be taxed as a luxury. I think women's fight for equality has been duped, and they just get usurped and overtaken every time they try to do something, because they're just so manipulatable.
She later pursued professional volleyball in London. She could have stayed in the United States and served in her role as a traditional woman.
She's not traditional.
But she didn't. And she could have been the traditional chaste woman living out her dream of everything women were supposed to do before feminism. But she is neither traditional nor chaste by her own admission. While feminists would have no problem with her personal choices,
I just hate when girls with dark hair dye their hair blonde. Just keep it dark, baby.
she has made a career bashing women for
Chat, do y'all like blonde hair on dark featured women?
theirs. Critics often argue that modern feminism has weakened families and resulted in a lower birth rate. They tend to dismiss empirical evidence demonstrating the insidious impact of the internet, social media on modern relationships. They also brush economic instability under the rug, despite young people citing their personal finances as the main reason why they're holding off on marriage in the first place. In lieu of discussing those factors, Pearl spends much of her time discouraging men from getting married in the first place. During her debate with Trent Horn, she declared that men are better off shacking up without ever getting married. Her reasoning? Women are too fat and STD infected.
Oh shit, some of us got our daddy's backs and knees. You know, look, you can be a torta pounder all you want, but your body will talk shit to you and you will listen. You will have no choice. Like, you're gonna have to get a bunch of lidocaine cream, a bunch of Bengay, and rub it on your knees and your lower back all the time. And that's real rich of her to say when she's a little skinny mini. But yeah, you can't be out here blowing your back out trying to give somebody's overfed daughter the business.
25%, that's a lot.
You did say that. She didn't stop to think about how they contracted the STDs in the first place. Data from the National Library of Medicine show that modern men are just as promiscuous as modern women. Men and women.
No, because I guarantee they didn't do a functional equivalent of how promiscuity can be measured neutrally amongst genders. Because men don't have the same access to sex as women do. So, Chad, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm a guy, and Pearl basically comes into my spaces on the internet and takes men's talking points. Thomas Souse, Kevin Samuels, Fresh and Fit, you name it. So everything that she argues, she's arguing from a position that she can't explain. It's disingenuous. It's just an embarkment on building up an audience and garnishing a niche in the market and taking their funds and resources. So I'm basically, it sounds like I'm on her side, but I'm critical of both of them, because both of them are synonymous with the problem. One of them is pro institution and the other one is pro big government. Well, not pro government, but I was trying to think of a good counter to pro institution. But they neither one of them have actual drives towards solutions. They just have opposing viewpoints that are, if it was a Rubik's cube, it would be the top and the side touching the top. It really wouldn't be a Rubik's cube and then another one. There's another Rubik's cube in the room. They're on the same cube. I don't even want to say two sides of the same coin, because it's multidimensional. And if you are new to this channel, I always mention how that politics is a cube. It's not a spectrum. It's not a line left and right. It's just a three-dimensional object.
Women are in bad shape, and in the United States, we can discuss why, but feminism is not the reason.
Very good. Thank you. Nice job. Okay, Pearl, We got 5 minutes. You're going to be on the clock, and let's go.
That was a long 5 minutes.
Most debaters and commentators are elitists who tell average Americans from their ivory towers what to think and how to feel. My answer to this question not only comes from covering current events and researching the facts, data, and statistics.
Okay, Chad, let me break that down. One, Alex Jones said it best, but I'll regurgitate it. There's basically 3 groups of elitists. You have kind-hearted ones, you have neutral ones, and you have evil ones. And the breakdown is the evil ones band together to get what they want. The neutral ones do whatever they want. So you would think of like a Pat McAfee. He created that software to protect your computer from viruses. And then you have I said neutral, right? You got neutral, fuck, I messed up. Let me start it over. You got 3 types of elitists, all right, chat? You have the evil ones. So those are the Jeffrey Epsteins, those are the corrupt politicians, the people that come up with massive interweb schemes and plans that take decades to see fruition. And those are the people that poison the land and kill people and do all sorts of nefarious, godless, soulless stuff. And then you have the neutrals. Those are the Pat McAfees, people who get ultra successful and really they don't lean one way or another. They're just kind of focused on their own self. That's it. And then you have the good ones. But the problem with the good ones is that they're focused on themselves too, and they don't band together unless they really need to. And that's who can fight the evil ones. So because of that, most people, when they say elitist, they're trying to talk about the evil elitists. They're trying to talk about the ones that are out to get your kids, the ones that want your souls, they want your stem cells, they want your house, they want to tax you as much as possible. Not all elitists fall in that category. That's only like 40% of elitists. So Pearl's arguing that wrong. And then secondly, she's saying that she argues from facts, data, statistics, but she's not. She's just copying people's talking points, because if she actually did all that stuff, when she gets pressed, she would be able to defeat it. And in this debate, you really can see that you have one person that knows how to debate, but is taking an inferior stance, which is Anna. And then you have another person who has a superior stance, but doesn't know what they're talking about. So they're going to lose.
Professional experience interviewing over 1,000 people in America and Western nations.
Okay, and anecdotal experience is actual real data. Like a doctor's opinion matters because they have a bunch of anecdotal experience. Yes, it also matters because they went to school and got an education, but that would be irrelevant if they couldn't combine it. You know, reading something in a book and doing it in actuality are 2 different things. And I say Pearl lost this debate. She won the clip war. She definitely won the clip war. We played that clip at the beginning of the show where she was like, nagging like this is why men kill themselves. And Anna said good. She didn't mean to say it, but she wouldn't retract the statement. So in of terms of TikTok clickbait, like who's got the best churn and burn business model, Pearl won. But when it comes to actual standing on business and giving somebody a verbal spanking, Anna won.
Feminism has given women power, and power corrupts. And that's what's happening. Feminism is robbing men of their disposable income and their prime earning years. Feminism has empowered women. It has empowered women to be sexually promiscuous. Feminists say that they fought for women to not subject themselves to the approval of men. Why then are 5 to 10% of women between the ages of 18 to 25 on OnlyFans or other prostitution websites? There are more online prostitutes in America than female Walmart employees. 1 of 3 women will catch an STD.
Yo, I don't think that was like a measurable fact, but I honestly believe that. I do.
At some point in their lifetime, 90% will catch HPV, which is incurable. Feminism has empowered women to abort 1/8 of the world population.
HPV is curable. I'm not a doctor. Don't take it as medical advice. This shit these hoes got, that's not curable, because they wearing coochie cutters all the time and they get HPV from 4 different dudes. So they probably got a super batch of that shit, but the regular one is curable.
and a third of Gen Z.
What's there, 16
Feminists
strands?
have been so empowered to commit paternity fraud. Paternity fraud is unpunished in any state in the USA or any country in the West. If done correctly, a man will have to pay for a child he was fooled into believing was his until that child reaches maturity. In some states, that man will have...
Paternity fraud should function as a audit. Your checks, a woman's checks, if it's intentional, it can be proven intentional, which would be hard, but it's doable. If she lies about that, yeah, you need to go ahead and get reparations, shawty. And that'll actually persuade women not to do it, and then it'll persuade the dudes to not get with these women, because that woman's gonna have a big bill that comes with her, and men are gonna look out for her.
Will also have to pay for that kid's college. That is slavery and is forbidden under the 13th Amendment. 1/3 of paternity tax.
All right, and she hasn't read the Constitution, because Tennessee, oh, I'm in Tennessee, but the U.S. Constitution actually allows slavery if you're imprisoned. And then a lot of states like Louisiana, Texas, and Tennessee actually say the same thing. So slavery is not completely abolished in the United States. So if you want to stack up with the wrong person, you signed up for slavery. So that's not illegal.
Are negative
or
by the American
unconstitutional.
Association of Blood Banks. Feminism has empowered women to rob men of their time, their resources, their reputation, their children, and in the most extreme cases, their lives.
And if Pearl actually wasn't just like Pearl is an elite that's not evil. I'm not calling her evil. She's just an elite that's neutral. She really doesn't give a damn. Because if she was actually a feminist or a pro men, she would also say that feminism hurts women the most, because it's a dirty little trick that tricks women into doing something that's unachievable. The illusion or the joke that women could get equal and compete with men is like comparing like your dog's ability to climb a tree. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if dogs run fast enough, they can climb a tree. They really shouldn't be doing that shit. But that's basically what women are doing. And Patrice O'Neal said it the best. Men and women working together is like bears working with salmon covered in honey.
They do this through child support, alimony, false allegations, and paternity.
You see, and if she was a true pick-me, the crowd is gonna chime in a bunch. And if she was a true pick-me, she would lean in on when they give her support and double down on it. But she doesn't. She just keeps going through her little paper and is like, damn, I think she legitimately did just act like a guy and wing this debate.
Fraud. How many people in this arena have a brother, a father, an uncle, or a friend who has gone through this meat grinder? Anna has been
damn, she a 6-footer and they gave her that baby ass mic
in the air for 15 years and is completely oblivious to these issues. It's a silent genocide of the lives of millions of men. Standing on the sidelines of the arena, I have 33-year combat veteran Terrence Popp. He served through 3 wars and was almost killed in 2. He got married, had 2 children, and served in the United States Army. Terrence Popp was deployed.
Damn, his eyes are telling a bunch of stories too.
To Iraq in 2004, and as a member of the airborne infantry, he was wounded by a roadside bomb and suffered a TBI and a stroke from the blast. He was evacuated out of the country, and it took over 2 years until he had recovered. While he was recovering, his wife was plotting to divorce him. His wife murdered his 6-year-old chocolate lab out of spite because he filed for divorce first. When he confronted her, the response he got was,
she murdered a
I
dog?
told you I did not want you living here. At this point, he was forced to leave the marital home and live out of his car. The divorce took away his home.
Hey, yo, I'm assuming his old lady was white, and that says a lot, because white people, especially white women, love dogs more than they should.
His children, and left him penniless and saddled with a child support payment he could not afford. Terrence had to pay $144,000 over a 12-year period for a divorce that his wife was empowered by feminists to plan and execute.
140. He could have bought citizenship in at least 50 other countries for that price.
Terrence went into court to fight for 50-50 custody. Terrence was called a murderer and an assassin in open court and was given 96 hours a month with his children. 96 hours a month is not a father. While homeless, he spoke
The
to
knuckle
many other
draggers would
men who would
disagree.
never get off the streets due to child support arrearages and penalties, and the men constantly getting arrested for unpaid child support. The disparage of losing his children and his home, and his PTSD and constant pain from his wounds, he became suicidal.
I think some of these men have got to do the hood dude slash Elon Musk strategy of just getting a shit ton of baby mamas, because I mean the law of numbers just favors you if you get a bunch of people doing anything. Like one of them is going to submit, one of them is going to be cool, and then secondly, you know that the more children you have when you're on child support, the less they can make you pay, so it gets capped. I mean, there's still back pay that you have to pay, but I mean, Elon Musk baby mamas trip on him all the time, but I never see all of them tripping at the same time. The same thing with Trump. Everybody that you see that has a bunch of baby mamas that's successful, it's like it is kind of a life hack. It's like, yeah, if I have 20 kids with 10 women, all of them can't be mad at the same time.
Well, at his post in 2008, a former commander of his came to see him to secretly say his last goodbyes. The next day, Mr. Pop's former commander put on his dress blues and went to the Holy National Veteran Cemetery and blew his brains out. Terrence Pop was notified of
Rest
the
in
death
peace,
and was
dog.
shocked because he was planning to commit suicide in the exact same manner. So in effect, his former commander...
Chat, if you would vote in the poll, please do us all a favor and vote in the poll. This is a very interactive channel over here. We do a lot of give back and back and forth. I pay attention to the chat. You guys can talk to me, say what you need to say, put some input, tell me how you want me to direct the stream, make a suggestion. Don't just tell me what the fuck to do. I'm clearly an uncontrollable person, but yeah, let's do that.
took the bullet that was meant for him. Terrence Pop decided he would not kill himself and has spent the last 20 years saving 576 men from suicide with comedy. If you look to the left of the stage, Terrence is holding the dog tags for every life that he has saved. Now, why am I telling you this? Shout out to Terrence, yeah. Now, why am I telling
I think they were wrapped in the flag, chat.
you this? Because men and American veterans are put in this position because of the empowerment that feminists like Anna have pushed for. There are millions of men that have died in this country from the political power that feminism pushes.
I think he said time and she ran over a little bit more.
Since 1970, an estimated 1.6 million men have committed suicide.
Time. Stop there.
If feminists cared about equality, why aren't they fighting for equality in divorce and family court as hard as they are fighting for abortion, working, or becoming sex workers? Thank you.
Kenzie said, just joined. Is she appealing to emotion here? Who are you talking about, Kenzie? Pearl or Anna?
Okay. This is gonna be, it's gonna be a heavy one. We're gonna go now to the opening interrogations. We have 10 minutes. Do we have that on the clock? Yeah, it's fading in right there. Okay, and take it away. 10 minutes.
Who's interrogating who?
Whoever wants to begin.
Aside from the specific anecdote.
Oh no, Pearl was not appealing to emotion. She was just grifting. She's straight up. She's a grifter. She is a neutral grifter who actually just picks men because she realized that men are the best bet when it comes to, you know, capitalizing an audience. Yeah, Pearl is definitely just she's not. Pearl can't defend her points well at all.
That you shared,
It's because she doesn't know them, nor does she believe them, nor does she actually care.
which of course is tragic.
And it
Can you
happens all the
cite some
time.
actual studies that look at the statistics and back up what you say in regard to the outcomes of marriage and divorce in America?
So this is how this is her game plan right there. She just knew, she basically just gonna repeat this stance the whole time, back it up with some sort of fact or statistic. And Anna's statistics and facts aren't even sound either, but she has them.
41% of 109 rape cases reported to police in a Midwestern city were admitted to be false by complainants.
In one Midwest.
Wait.
41% of 109 rape cases.
41% of 109. So 41% of 109 is what, chat? Like 50?
Reported to police in a Midwestern city were admitted to be false.
47,
In
46.
one Midwestern city? And which Midwestern city was that?
You know, you can go from your eye.
See, that's egregious because false accusers need the death penalty just like sexual abusers need the death penalty. And neither one of them were like alarmed. Like one person lying about being assaulted in that way is crazy. That's a lot. And that hurts the whole system. So if either of them actually cared, they would see that one as 10 million because that's really what it is. It has that big of a butterfly effect.
Ivory tower. And
I'm
tell
not in an
people what
ivory
to
tower.
think
I'm
and
on
how
this
to
debate
feel.
stage interrogating your assertions, and you've only provided an anecdote.
Right.
Because
It's
if you
not-
look at the data, which I did, of course, you'll find that women are twice as likely to fall into poverty after divorce.
Right, because they can't stop
Alimony is paid
spending.
out in 10% of divorces. According to the Census Bureau, the average child support payment is $441 a month, and only 60%
Right, but how
of
much are
those
they
payments
making?
get paid out.
How much?
60%. Well, this is where studying economics favors you more than studying gender in society. There's an enormous wealth gap in the United States of America. So that would throw all of those numbers into proportion. If either of them had broke those down by socioeconomic class, then the numbers would be totally different.
How much?
Women do not get child custody 90% of the time, as you have asserted before. In fact, 95% of custody cases are mutually agreed upon outside of the courtroom. Women get full custody 40% of the time. Men do get full custody 20% of the time.
So 40% is women, 20% is men, so that's 60 total, and the other 40 is
And
both.
40% of the time, it's shared custody, which I think is the ideal situation, assuming that neither spouse is abusive.
So that just leans toward women getting their way more than men.
And Pearl, excuse me, before you respond, if you could take your microphone out and hold it, it would be easier to hear you.
Yeah, see, I called that a minute ago. They did not consider that this woman is like Shrek's height.
Okay.
Don't get it twisted. She can still get folded and molded, but still, she's pretty tall. And I think she's still wearing heels. Anna is, yeah, my God. Never mind. Keep going.
Alimony and medical care and dental are not covered by that, so a lot of times it does go above.
I'm gonna get a
50%.
handkerchief, chat.
Again, you can go through the facts, the data, and the statistics and
My
manipulate
nose is
them any
leaking.
way that you want.
It's not
But
manipulation.
there are
Those are the
1.6
stats.
million. There are 1.6 million men in this country. Men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after a divorce.
Compared to
Wait.
women.
Did she say there's 1.6 million?
It's not
But there
manipulation.
are
Those are the
1.6
stats.
million. There are 1.6 million men in this country. Men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after a divorce.
There's way more people than that. I don't know what fact she was trying to say, but there's definitely more than 106 million men in the country.
Compared to women, what's the number for women?
It's lower.
Maybe she was excluding minors out of the equation and immigrants, people that don't have complete citizenship yet. But there's still, it's got to be way more than 106 million.
Really? What is it? Comparative analysis is real difficult for you, isn't it?
Okay.
Go ahead, Pearl.
What's your next question?
You have asserted that men shouldn't get married, that instead they should
I
shack
didn't say
up.
that.
You did say that with
did
Trent
not say
Horn. Word for word, you said it makes more sense for them to shack up, live with a girlfriend instead of getting married. Do you think
It does, except living with a girlfriend. You get everything that you want from women today without marrying them. Well, from what they can offer.
the advice that
Right,
you give to
right.
men is the type of advice that will fulfill their lives? Because I'll tell you one thing, the best part of my life is my husband. I love my husband. He's my rock. He's my foundation.
Well, the feminine prerogative is having someone complete you, helping you add onto the cycle. The masculine prerogative is being on your purpose, and that doesn't entail having a spouse. Like if you look at the most influential men in the world that whose names echo regardless of what's going on, their spouse, yes, sometimes adds to the equation, but that's not it. Like if you're on the world if you're the guy who decided to dye tires black because the rubber from tires is actually white, that is your purpose. But his mom's purpose was giving birth to him, and she needed his dad to do that.
And no, my husband is number one. I love my career, but you know what my career did?
Wait. Look, let's rewind. I talked over it, but that guy in the crowd just shouted out a little bit.
You think the advice that you give to men is the type of advice that will fulfill their lives? Because I'll tell you one thing, the best part of my life is my husband. I love my husband.
Women do not complete men the way that men complete women.
He's my rock. He's my foundation. And no.
So that guy said that not more than your career. And this is where Pearl should have leaned into using the audience to her favor. You have to use all the chess pieces on the board if you can. So she's got men over there co-signing and helping her, and she didn't lean into it. It's like fighting, chat. I know I make a lot of metaphors to fighting, but in any sport, right? You get a warning, and based on the egregiousness of the foul, if it's soccer, well, if you slide tackle from behind, that's illegal. You get a yellow card. You do it again, you get a red card, you're out of the game. Just like fighting. You punch somebody below the belt, that's a point. You do it again, that's 2 points. You do it a third time, you're out the match. But you still can get away with it 1 or 2 times. If I was Pearl, or if I was advising Pearl, if I was her man, her Mac, her daddy, her pimp, her sire, her lord, she would have been using the audience to her favor. But she's not in her bag. She's actually just trying to be a masculine woman, which doesn't work in women's favor because she's trying to do this independently and she's outgunned and outmatched.
Oh, my husband is number one. I love my career, but you know what my career did? When I met my husband, my career was already established.
And see, this is what a feminist will do, even though I think this lady actually denounces feminism. She's gonna just like keep shooting her husband and saying some shit. She's gonna keep shooting her husband and saying some shit that is kind of like private, some shit you don't want to just rub out there.
He, on the other hand, was couch surfing. He was in debt and didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. I married him anyway. You want to know why? Because I had the economic freedom to marry for love, not for some Chad to take care of me.
Most women don't do that.
How tall is he?
Oh, he's 6'1", about your height.
For love. And you see, women are not nearly as loving as they think they are. Like, ask women how many midgets they've dated in their life. Most women won't even consider a midget as a sexual option or a loving option.
None. I don't want kids.
Let's not do shouting questions from there, please. Allow these.
See, Pearl should have nipped that in the bud. Not nipped it in the bud. She should have leaned into that instead of letting this dude yell it, because he's not even moderating the women, really. He's moderating the crowd more than the women.
To debate each other.
Okay, what's your question?
Get her.
I mean, you don't really have much to answer, so I don't know what else to ask you. Do you think you're helping men by discouraging them from entering fulfilling marriages?
You got dick for brains, and I don't want to get fucked right now. So what else can we do here?
What happens to men if they don't pay child
to answer, so I don't know what else to ask you. Do you think you're helping men by discouraging them from entering fulfilling marriages?
They're not fulfilled, though. Like, do you not listen to men? They're not fulfilled.
What happens to men if they don't pay child?
If marriage was extremely fulfilling, you couldn't convince men not to do it. That's she's missing that. That's a whole talking point that she's just like glossing over.
Child support.
I mean,
what happens? What happens, Anna?
How many men do you think get arrested? I don't know what the number is. But the idea that there's like a huge number of men getting arrested for not doing what they're supposed to do
15%
and take care of their children, it's not a huge issue.
What happens to men when they don't?
Raise your kids. I'm looking what sounded like a black stereotype. Raise your kids, but at the same time, I'm not. If I somehow become irresponsible and get a random shorty knocked up and she doesn't obey and submit to me, fuck them. I just get a new one. Yeah, Hear me well. I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do. But if she makes it hard, well, it's gonna be hard for everybody.
Really,
Child support.
only 60% of child support payments get paid out.
You gotta allow her to interrogate you, not them. You gotta stop yelling questions at her.
You can minimize men's problems all you want, but I don't think you understand how privileged of a position you're in.
In what way? How am I privileged?
Men are the ones that are on the hook for child support. Men are the ones that are on the hook for alimony. It's easy for you to tell men to just take the risk when you're not in that position.
So are you asserting that men shouldn't pay child support following a divorce? Do you believe that women should be financially responsible 100% after a divorce?
Feminists wanted to be equal. So I say be equal. If you
Okay, chat. In the poll, you guys voted. I said, whose debate style do you prefer? We got one vote, and it's Pearl. Wow. Okay, got some Pearl clit lickers in here. All right.
You guys want equality, 50-50 custody, no child support, no alimony, no special privileges.
Alimony is paid out in 10%
It doesn't
of
matter
divorces.
if you're part of the
It does
10%.
matter. It does matter because you make it seem like it's a widespread issue.
See, and this is where women are just logically inconsistent, because now they're arguing over a number that's not even critical mass. 10% is not critical mass. Yet, when they're talking about fabrication of crimes, it was found at what, 41% or 47 or 49, whatever the number was. Over 40% of crimes in the town were lied about. That's a significant number too. But look at them both of them looking goofy.
When it's
the tender
only
years
10%.
doctrine is a sexist law against men. That's sexist.
How is it sexist if a woman decided to forego a career, decided to be a stay-at-home mother, and the marriage doesn't work out? She has.
Because women and men are on different time clocks, and that's not men's creation. If men could even out the playing field, they would, but it's not possible.
Has no job, she has no income. So you think it's unfair to get support from her ex-husband so she can raise the kids?
60%,
so she can pay.
60% of kids under 5 have daycare. Daycare is an option now. You wanted to be men.
Do you know how much daycare costs?
You wanted to be men. Here you have it.
Do you know how much daycare costs? Do you think it's free?
Let her answer.
A lot of things are expensive, Anna. I mean,
That's not an answer.
And like I said, women have not lobbied correctly because tampons, pads, they're all luxury taxed. They're luxury tax imports in the United States, and condoms are not. Women have had all these rights for all these years, and yet they're still letting a bunch of old dudes in Congress make them pay more for having coochies. That's not our fault, ladies.
Answer.
Women have 85% of consumer spending. Women spend money all the time. You spend money on hair dye, you spend money on Botox, you spend money.
You should think about it.
Oh, damn. Well, Anna is the better looks maxer, but she's like 20 years older than Pearl.
I sure am.
Somebody called her a bitch, if you guys couldn't hear that, and then she said, I sure am. Ew.
You spend money all of the time.
Yep.
So you wanted to be men, here it is. You're equal. Pay for daycare.
Equality means that when you have a child or children, you're both responsible. So the idea that the woman should take 100% of the costs on herself without any help from her husband or ex-husband is ridiculous. How is that?
Wait. Why y'all even trying to, okay, because they're talking about divorce and alimony and all this shit, but like most of the women out here having kids are not even getting married, which is dumb. Like, I'm not saying that you're supposed to get married before you have kids, but I'm just going to say if I got body swapped with a woman and I was like 18 again, but I was in a woman's body, I'm not having a baby without being married. I'm trying to guarantee my provision. But yeah, they're only talking about the women that got provision.
Fair. Well,
and I think that actually probably changes the numbers a lot. So a lot of these numbers where people are talking about alimony and stuff, I would beg to differ and look at the statistics, and it's probably amongst the married people, and most people don't get married before having kids.
Well, how is it fair that he doesn't get 50-50 custody?
well, first of all,
It's
Why
50
are you asserting that they don't?
It's 50% his DNA. Why can't he have 50% custody? Where
There
has
was a
feminists
study.
been? I've been
Let
on
me answer
20
your question, even though I
different-
should be interrogating you. I'll answer your question.
50% is DNA.
Massive study out of Massachusetts that looked at 24,000 divorces. In those
Chat, I am Googling how many people get married before having kids.
25 divorces, they found
pull it
that
up for
in
you.
only 8% of cases did men ask for custody. 8%.
Right, because the average American can't afford divorce fees, Anna.
But women
it
can
costs
afford to raise the
$25,000
children
to get a
by themselves
divorce.
without support from the ex-husband.
Okay, so ChatGPT kind of went neutral on me. It's at 40 to 60%. So that means 40 to 60% aren't, which is 50-50. However, I bet people that don't get married before having kids have more kids. So let me pull it up, show you guys here what I'm talking about. Maybe I didn't make that transparent enough, but what I'm gonna do here is drink the debate over there, pull up the poll over there. Oh, I got this like bad. I like the background. Do you guys like the background? We can change it if you don't. But it's proven what I said right there. Approximately 40 to 45% of millennial parents in the United States get married before having their first child. This represents a significant shift from previous generation, as a majority as of 55% millennials now have children before marriage, compared to 25% of baby boomers. Overall, about 40% of all U.S. births occur to unmarried mothers. There you go, chat.
How does that make sense?
What did you say? I didn't hear you. We were both talking.
You're complaining about the cost.
And that's gonna be that's what's gonna make Anna lose the clip war on this. She said they were both talking, which is true.
While simultaneously arguing that a woman should not get child support in order to raise the children that the former couple had together.
Are you guys equal or not? You want it
Yes,
to be equal.
equality means that you're
right.
both responsible
50
for raising the children, and that includes the
so
costs
you should have
of raising the
equality,
children.
but not at the expense of men. 50.
And it's silly that women will chase equality when, you don't compare a baseball player's ability to play basketball. That's just not how it works.
50 custody, 50-50, no child support, no alimony. That's equality. You don't want
Alimony
equality.
makes sense if the woman was a stay-at-home mother and doesn't have a source of income. How else would she take care of the kids following a divorce?
By getting a job just like the men.
Boom, that's your mic drop.
So you're saying that a woman who doesn't have recent job history is just going to willy-nilly enter the job force, or workforce, I should say, and easily get hired? Do you guys care about this? So do you care about the children or not? Because you're making this about
No,
like
fuck
the
them kids.
the
What are you, a
poor
woman? That's an
husband, the
emotional
poor
argument.
ex-husband who doesn't want to pay the child support, doesn't want.
So wait, we got the timestamp. That was 20 minutes 35 seconds. Pearl started raging 20 minutes and 35 seconds, rage baiting. She started rage baiting 20 minutes 35 seconds in. This is gonna be good. That was nice. I didn't even notice that the first couple of times I watched this through.
To take on any of the responsibilities of having children in the first place. Why is it that you seem to have a problem with men carrying out their responsibilities, but when it comes to
men are dying to care about their responsibilities. Men
Really?
are fighting to be a part of their kids' lives.
what's the empirical data on that?
I don't need data. How many people in here have had a family or a friend fight for their kid and not be able to get it? The reason that this happens, Anna, is because lawyers tell them not to fight because it's so expensive and they won't win.
What is
They
that
won't
based
win.
on?
Chat, there's a new poll up. The new poll is, does equality exist? Please do us all a favor and vote in the new poll.
You have to provide, look, Pearl, I am open to be convinced, but I
Lies.
need more than
Lies. The two things women are better at than men: lying and crying. And the third thing would be doing them both at the same time.
anecdotes. I need more than vibes and feelings. Because we're talking about something serious here. We're talking about raising children. We're talking
I don't like the way she's moving her body. I think she's wearing like a waist trainer or something, or a girdle, because that's unnatural movement right there.
about the shared responsibility of raising children. That, of course, includes the cost.
90% of disputed custody goes to women. That's not equal.
90%, that's a totally made up statistic. Where are you citing that from?
Your mom. But keep rage baiting her. She should have just kept rage baiting her. Pearl, get another black boyfriend. We need to be a TV couple. Look, we don't have to mean it. I don't have to know what you're doing tonight, but let me be your man on the inside. Put a little mic, put a little headphone in, and let me tell you what to say. She should have just rage baited her, because she told her she needed to get Botox. They clearly are letting strays go through, but you know, female brain, you get overwhelmed, you get stunned, you get dazed, you can't think, can't do anything. You're just sitting there like, got a queef,
All right, let's take a break there because our time actually ran up. Those opening interrogations are over. Let's take a moment here.
All right, chat. Who won opening interrogations? Who won open and honestly, it was obviously Anna. Anna won because one, she got that dirty blow in. Nothing happened. Pearl did not counter her or put her on the back foot at all. And the only thing Pearl did was start the rage baiting. Round one goes to Anna.
You guys want to grab a sip of water? All right. The next step is going to be 30 minutes. We're going to open it up. Again, open debate. I'd remind you guys, I know everyone's passionate about this. I get that. But we can't have multiple people debating at the same time, right? We got one debater here. We got one debater here. Let's keep it here. All right? Let's put 30 minutes on the clock.
Shut up,
and let's
bro.
begin the open debate.
I'm just kidding, dog. Thank you for letting me react to this.
Pearl, I'll let you pick up here. Go ahead.
Okay, we're about to speed this shit up. 1 second, chat. Hope y'all see that playback speed. Boom, boom, bam.
What happens to men when they don't pay child support?
There are consequences for it, especially when
Which
there's a
are?
court order for them to
Which
carry
are?
out their responsibility and pay child support so that child can be raised.
And what happens
Do you
if they
think
don't
there shouldn't
pay
be
it?
legal responsibilities or legal consequences if they fail
I've heard of dudes losing their passport for not paying child support.
to carry out a court order to, take care of their kids?
I've interviewed men that have paid millions of dollars in
Don't
child
care about your
support and
interviews.
married-
Anecdotal evidence doesn't matter. What I need is actual statistic, empirical evidence. They should pay their child support. $441
What happens-
is the average child support payment. $441.
Oh, I think I just broke
A
my
month.
chair. Oh, I did not know
Yeah,
this
that's
chair
for
leaned
someone
back.
that makes
Whoa.
$24,000 a year.
You just told me a woman can just go to work and take care of the kids totally by herself.
How does a guy live when he's
Well,
paying?
dude, just argue the wage gap. There is a wealth gap. Not even amongst the gender. There's a wealth gap, and divorce happens in all social classes. People fight over kids, and when you're rich, kids are pawns. They're tokens. They're leverage. So that $400 for some people is $700. Some people it's $7,000. Some people it's $11. I saw a dude on Facebook who was, I think he was ordered like $40 a month in child support, and his baby mama took him to court to try to get it raised up, and it got lower because he had another kid.
$500 a month and $24,000 a year.
You think $500 a month is too much in child support? Do you know how much it costs to raise a child?
And don't a lot of dudes just move states sometimes because it takes the states forever to find each other, and not all 50 states cross communicate that well.
Do you know how much childcare costs, for instance?
Because some places the child support is delegated and enforced by the sheriff's department, and in other places it's enforced by the police department. So if you move places, they're not used to cross communicating in the same fashion because all the jurisdictions work differently. I used to work with a guy who had back pay for his child support, and they would just audit his checks, but they'd come like 30 minutes before the shift would start, give him a paper, and he never went to jail. So I don't think it was like criminally enforceable, or he just knew how to fight the system. And he had like 3 or 4 baby mamas, and I think only one of them was just insufferable. And because I met a bunch of his kids, and the kids who had the moms that were chill, they were getting paid. It was that one mom that was difficult, that she was the one that was always trying to get him for back pay for child support, and he just was not budging.
I mean, that mother has to go to work, right? Where's the kid going to stay while that mother is working? How is she going to pay for the
what happens to men when they
daycare?
don't pay child support?
Sorry, say that again.
What happens to men when they don't pay child support?
There are legal repercussions for not carrying out a court mandate to do something.
Do you think that fraud should be illegal?
Absolutely.
Okay. So why is it not illegal for women to fraud men on paternity? If a man does not find out he's the father over the age of 2, he is on the hook for child support for 18 years.
Oh, the stipulation is 2. Okay.
I don't know what the law is when it comes to that, but it's wrong. If you're lying about paternity, that is wrong, and there should be legal consequences.
Death penalty. No, I'm kidding. Okay, I know I say death penalty a lot, chat. Death penalty for rapists and women that falsely accuse men of rape. Both of them.
It's that simple.
Then why aren't feminists fighting for it, Anna?
Because feminists fight for women, obviously.
Right. That's my point. At the expense of men. You guys want to believe women at the expense of men. Why isn't Amber Heard in jail? Because of the Me Too.
Amber Heard. Chat, I'm going to tell the story. When I found out that Amber Heard had pooped on Johnny Depp's bed, there was a meme of it where it was drawn in like a cartoon fashion, and Johnny Depp was in character for Pirates of the Caribbean. I never watched any of the movies, but I blew up the meme on a shirt, and it was really funny, and it said Amber Heard, and I cut it into a stringer, like a string tank top. I would go work out, then throw the tank top on, then purposely go to gas stations, and I'd stand by the beer section, and then dudes would come in to buy a beer, and they're like, bro, I love that shirt, and then I would sell them the shirt. So thank you for pooping on his bed, Amber Heard.
Do movement. You guys push believing all rape victims, and now we have rape.
Amber Heard had to pay out a massive settlement.
Yeah, but why isn't she in jail?
You want her in jail?
No, she deserves the death penalty. Kill her.
Yes.
Wait, I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. Yeah, but if you I don't mean that YouTube. If you lie about someone abusing you like that, especially in that fashion, yeah, you need capital punishment.
Well,
he ruined his
the penalties for defamation are what the court's decision is, right? You want people to go to prison for defamation?
He had to go to 2 different countries.
And that's not even that weird, chat. It's only in America where you can't. Libel is a serious crime in a bunch of countries. I went on a vacation to a country, and I was researching, and actually it was a Facebook group that had a lot of American expats that were like, yo, do not, if like, I think actually like cursing people out was not that bad, but if you wrote like a curse word or insult and you were a foreigner, that country had specific laws against that. Libel and defamation are super serious. It's just us Americans have freedom of speech, so then it doesn't become penally punished. That's why they punish you in your pockets.
To clear his name. Why isn't she in jail? He lost millions of dollars.
To be clear, you think the penalty for defamation is prison time?
I think the penalty for a false accusation is that the woman should get the same time that he would have gotten if he was found guilty.
Men don't go to prison for defamation.
No one does, because it's protected and preserved under the First Amendment.
And see, this is the problem with feminists. You want all these...
The First Amendment is 4 parts, chat. It's freedom of press, freedom of assembly, freedom of expression, and freedom of press. Or no, religion. Freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, and freedom of expression, I believe is the 4th one. But the First Amendment is actually 4 parts.
Freedoms.
And to be a better debater, especially if you're going to talk about the law, you should read the Constitution, which clearly neither of them have.
Won't actually be equal.
I do want equality.
No, if you wanted to be equal, you would fight for 50-50 child support, no alimony.
And the fact that Pearl is actually bad at debating when she got a pretty good education shows a lot. You would think that because of how overeducated women are, they would be better at things like critical thinking, public speaking, but it's not an all sum equation. Like, just because a person is good at running and good at jumping, they aren't good at basketball, for example. Or just because a person's good at squatting, they're not also good at bench pressing. So some people, like women, are typically very good at going to school and doing it in the format of whatever it takes: sit down, shut up, do these answers. But then when it comes to critical thinking and using their brain, especially Americans, like, we're terrible at using the other part of our brain to just actually work outside of premeditated function.
No alimony. So again, if a woman decided to forego working, decided to stay home to raise the children, and the marriage doesn't work out, she's got no income whatsoever, she doesn't deserve any alimony.
Women aren't even doing that. Number one, that's not even women are not staying home with the kids. And number two, you have daycare.
A lot of women do these days.
You have daycare.
The traditional women who want to stay home, they want to be traditional wives. And you try.
There are no traditional women in America, so she's lying. The women that say they're traditional are not traditional.
Them all the time, which I don't understand.
Look,
it seems like women can't do anything right when it comes to you, right? They're stay-at-home moms. They're traditional.
I understand that you can personally attack me.
I'm not personally attacking you.
Okay.
These are.
She did, and Pearl should use her recall and say, "Yeah, you said I need Botox."
Things that you have said on the record multiple times.
And then she should have called her a crooked-titted hobbit.
But if you cared about equality, you would care about false accusations.
I do care about false accusations.
No,
yep.
you don't.
You don't know me. You don't know what I care about.
Look, all right. Let's talk about rights that men do not have.
Why she just drop it? She should have just continued. She should have pressed the issue. Why is she folding so hard under pressure? You know, I was watching this on playback. I watched it like 3 weeks ago. Chat, I actually meant to stream, and I apologize. A bunch of stuff got in the way. One of my chicks told me her body count, and then my car broke down. So, you know, I was all sorts of figgity fucked up. But I'm back, and I watched this back multiple times, and I was more on fire and gonna present a better argument. But as I'm live streaming and talking to you guys, and I'm seeing it again, it's even more cringeworthy. It really wasn't that cringeworthy until just now. That's the mark. 27 minutes 9 seconds. Kinsey said, "Do you think Pearl considers herself traditional?" No, she doesn't. I'm pretty sure she says she isn't. She just like leans into the imagery and the illusion of it. Pearl's that equivalent of that really, and this is a equivalent. She's not this, but you know those girls that act like they're not wearing makeup, but actually they just get up extra early and put on a little bit everywhere. And to the point where men that aren't that observant can't tell. So then they think that girl's just drop dead gorgeous. She just does that with pandering to men.
Men do.
Okay, let me give a backstory, chat, because a lot of people say that like I get on this woman too much, but I saw it, and I'm not a person that I can bite my tongue. I don't choose to often, but I'm not gonna let people believe just a lie all the time. So what happened was, this is how Pearl had to come up. Pearl started dating this dude named Angry Reacts, who's this black guy who made content where he would say gorgeous like that. He'd make a face and pretend to be angry, but a lot of it was actually positive and kind-winded content. As he was doing that, he started dating Pearl. Pearl used to go by this channel called Whitest Girl on Earth, and she would say Whitest Girl on Earth Reacts. At the same time, Manosphere-esque and red pill and male self-help content was blowing up. So she's dating this dude, and she's reacting to like ghetto music, like trap music, King Von, shoot 'em up, kill 'em, I hate my own people type of music. She's reacting to country music, Billy Bob Ray Thornton, Billy Ray Cyrus. She's doing all these reaction videos. And after she does that, she gets pulled into the manosphere. So she starts reacting to Kevin Samuels and all these other people. So she had this mini blow up in this unique lane of reaction content. Reactionary content, for those of you that don't know, from 2015 to about 2021 had a huge payout where I keep clearing my voice, but I got a tip. I need to get something to drink. Reactionary content has already been a thing, but it was paying and people were watching it in longer form. So she was in that hole. And as she started reacting to male content, she got a bunch of red pills, literally, like hard facts and truths about men. Like, Pearl, your dad's ultra successful. I'd highly doubt he's only been smashing your mom for 20 years. She pushed back a lot. Well, she got in league with a bunch of other men, dropped her ex-boyfriend, started grifting and reacting to people who she then got game from, like Kevin Samuels. And then that's how she got into all the red pill manosphere content. She didn't truly believe in it. There's tons of videos of her arguing against it when she was reacting to it, because some of her knee-jerk reactions were really good. It was actual, just like what you would expect from a girl that hasn't been told the truth. So yeah, that's where Pearl came from. So when she's not conservative or traditional, she was exposed to it, was vehemently against it, and then saw an opening to where it was lucrative, and then she just kept leaning into it. That's how we got here. There's nobody on the internet, because traditional women don't want to be on the internet, chat. So there's not really a such thing as a conservative tradcon female influencer. Being a debater, making content, having a social media platform, all of that is extremely masculine and extremely competitive. So any of the women that do it and do it successfully are inherently masculine, which isn't traditional, unless they're like Tamiris, who was a warrior princess, or or unless they're like Cleopatra the Sixth or something. You know, unless they come from a tribe of women that were diplomatic and warlike, they're not traditional. Because especially if they're American, one of their grandmama or somebody in their history was traditional. These women aren't traditional. And then Mackenzie said in the chat, basically, she wears it as a costume for her brand. Exactly. It's a costume. It's a costume, and she knows she's wearing it. She's basically, I don't even want to call her Batman because it's disrespectful to Batman. She's Robin, or she's Batgirl, but she's Batgirl that's in the wheelchair. So then she became Oracle. No, that's not a good analogy. I'm gonna just let it play. But no, chat. You got to know the origin story of the people you're talking to and what they've done before. There's no woman on the internet that's arguing for men, or for the plight of men, and for everyone else, because women don't operate that way. Like, think about it. Women have had feminism in actual successful form for a while now, and like I say, they still don't lobby for the correct things. We should, if women lobbied correctly, we would have mandatory paternity leave that would be greater than what it is. Tampons, we'd have universal income, which is what women are more pro for, because women are more pro community, more pro liberalism, communism, things like that. And they wouldn't have to pay a luxury tax on a product they need. They don't care. It's like the government trying to give you some type of, health improver for free, but it's not that. And there's so many other health problems going on.
Have the right to be enlisted in selective service. We have 125K men who were drafted and buried overseas. Think about that over a second. You talk about the oppressions of the past, but how many men died in World War I and World War II and had no choice? And yet Anna complains about oppression. Men do not have the right to face their accuser in court.
I didn't actually hear what Anna said because they talked over each other again.
But how many men died in World War I and World War II and had no choice? And yet Anna complains about oppression. Men do not have the right to face their accuser in
all I heard was policy. Oh well.
Court when they have a false allegation and for personal protection orders that strips constitutional rights away from the man.
Let's see. Pleading the fifth is not to self-incriminate, and I believe the Fourth Amendment is a right to face your accuser. And what Pearl is trying to talk about, chat, is that a lot of times people will get these allegations and the accuser will be anonymous, whereas the person that's considered the perpetrator is I'm getting a call on my other phone. I gotta text that person. But the person that's being said guilty can't defend themselves accurately. You have a right to face your accuser, which is a constitutional right, but it doesn't happen.
Women go before a judge and say they don't feel safe, and more than likely a PP order will be issued. The man was not in court, had no say, has no defense, and does not get to face his accuser. That is done en masse, and many servicemen and first responders lose their careers over this because it strips a man's Second Amendment rights away based on no evidence.
That's not the Second Amendment. She's wrong. I don't remember if it's the Fourth or the Sixth, but it's not the Second. I know it's not the Second. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. Yeah. What else was I going to say about that, chat? I lost my. I keep having a lot of shit going on. I got to sneeze. I'm getting phone calls. You know, there's a bird taking a shit in a tree. There's a squirrel that just got hit by a truck. You know, a beaver fucked a duck. I'm just so dramatic. Sorry, guys. Let me rewind a little bit.
En masse, and many servicemen and first responders lose their careers over this because it strips a man's Second Amendment rights away based on.
Okay, what she's talking about, I have an authority to speak on this because I've worked in EMS before. So I went to EMT school. Basically, what happens when she's talking about servicemen and first responders is there's rules, there's chain of command, there's laws, and they're delegated federally. Right. And then you have the ones that are delegated by the state. So, for example, taking a woman's heart, listening to a woman's heart with a stethoscope, you're supposed to have someone else in the room with you, etc., etc. Well, in certain emergencies, you can't follow the rules exactly. And then what happens is you don't do that, and people can sue you because EMT and first responder, a lot of first responders are easier to sue than doctors. Basically, medical malpractice is the fourth leading killer of Americans. A lot of lawyers know that, so sometimes people will go and sue men. But Pearl's talking about a lot, and then I want to iterate a little bit more to say what I was trying to say a little bit better is that a lot of places have a one strike policy and a warning policy, basically. So say you get, and this happens to a lot of police officers too. Police officers can actually only get 2 demerits against their their surety bond. So they had to, every type of job. Okay, Kinsey said Fourth Amendment is unreasonable search and seizure. All right, so the Sixth Amendment is your right to face your accuser. We're getting smarter together, chat. Good job, Kinsey. Thank you. I'm gonna type thank you. Anyway, like I was saying, most cops can only be sued twice. But now I don't mean they can only be sued twice as a legal limit. No, most departments have it where that if a cop gets successfully sued or sued at all, whether they win or lose, they get fired, because then their surety bond, which is not security, their surety bond is at risk. And that means that they cannot get a license to practice police work, because most professions in the United States require licenses. You need a journalism license, you need a license to be an EMT, etc., etc. So you need a license to do all these things, and you have a bunch of legal protections that are in your favor. And the public does or does not know these things usually. But if a man gets one of these strikes against him, he's automatically fired in a lot of cases and doesn't have a lot of ground to stand on. And then that's where you get all these troublesome cities to come in place. So I live in Tennessee, right? Well, if you get fired for sexual misconduct, you can always go to Memphis, or I'm not saying to, but I've seen this happen where someone couldn't pass an exam to become a licensed EMT, or they were an EMT and then they got a sexual assault charge or allegation. They instantly get fired. And then from there, they can't get a job within 50 miles of where they got fired from. So then they'll move across the state. Memphis is about 3 hours from Nashville, 6 hours from Knoxville, 5.5 from Chattanooga. So they'll move to cities that have high crime rates, or they just have to switch professions. And a lot of people are not prepared to switch professions abruptly. And it makes them unhireable, because then you have to disclose some of this information during the interview process, and then you're just thrown further and further into the abyss. That's what Pearl was trying to argue.
No evidence. Men do not have the right to raise their children. Divorce is no fault, but when it comes to child custody, it's always the man's fault. He loses his children to the system. 96 hours a month the father does not make. Men have longer prison sentences. Women get a third of the time for the same crime. Where are the feminists fighting for equality?
All right, we got 2 votes on the poll. Does equality exist? You guys said no. And men and women getting the same time, not getting the same time for charges is a real thing. Even murder charges, women get less time than men. That is a fact in the United States. The United States is so behind on prison reform, it's insane.
Equality on that issue. There has been rampant discrimination against better qualified men in hiring across multiple industries. Men pay more child support, and child support orders are not enforced at the same rates between men and women. Women are more likely
women pay
not
child
to
support.
pay
Fascinating.
and are prosecuted for non-payment at lower rates. Men cannot opt out of parenthood.
So I think the moderator is actually confused because I don't think he expected either of them to come this way. Because if you watch Pearl on her own content, it's more well put together, but it's a lot of standalone content. And she's an extrovert, so extroverts do better the more people are around. Like when you guys are really talking to me in the chat, my streams go better. I talk more, and I'm being more charismatic, and it's more flowing. So I think he wasn't prepared for that. And then the bitchiness and the cattiness that keeps switching between these 2 gals.
Men have very few domestic violence shelters.
Hey, and I appreciate each and every one of y'all. It's only 5 of y'all in here, and most of y'all catch me on the playback, but entertaining an audience of any size is a pleasure.
And are not taken seriously when they're domestic violence victims.
I agree on that.
White men in particular are discriminated against when it comes to hiring and educational attainment.
True.
The Duluth model is a model that law enforcement, courts, and counselors use automatically that assumes men are the aggressor. The tender years doctrine is a guideline in divorce.
You guys, in a lot of versions of the Duluth model goes off of height, and since most men are taller than most women, that they're considered the aggressor in most situations.
Used to justify removing the father from the child's life. The only institutional sexism that exists is institutional sexism that discriminates against men.
Man, America is a terrible place to raise a family. I'm born and raised here. America is just only for building yourself up, building your pockets up, getting a business, but it's awful for child rearing.
In favor of women.
You're surrounded by pedophiles, poisonous food, stupid women, so much.
Furthermore, U.S. courts do not require receipts to show how that money is spent by the custodial parent, unless there's overwhelming evidence of starvation, malnutrition, or severe child abuse. There are numerous reports of custodial
You want the
parents
government
spending
to
the money
check receipts and see, like...
See, and this is where Anna is about to start cooking Pearl a little bit, because Pearl is basically pro big government, and Anna is pro government reform. And the men are just naturally like, leave me alone. Men are more small government than women are. But these are both women, so they're both just going to argue in the favor of government. They're just mincing on how.
Let's let her respond to some of that.
Hold on, let's understand something. You want government to be so big that you literally have the government looking at receipts to see what a mother is spending the money on? That's insane.
I want no child support, no alimony, 50-50.
Yeah, because you're crazy and you don't live in reality.
What she should have said, somebody got to check these bitches.
I want equality. I'm more of a feminist than you, Anna.
She is. She actually is.
Because I say if you want to vote, be in selective service. Be on the front lines just like the men are.
Who do you think gives birth to and raises those soldiers?
Single moms.
What does that have to do with anything?
Because you assert that women shouldn't be allowed to vote because they're not all in mandatory military service.
I say be equal. You want to vote, do what the men do. Men are fined $125,000.
Should women be included in combat? Should women
No.
be included in combat?
Also, chat, it's been proven that women can carry trauma through their fetuses, so you don't want a bunch of veterans getting female veterans getting pregnant and then trauma dumping that into the new generation.
Yes.
Okay.
Do what the men do.
Fair.
Do what the men do.
Yeah, fair.
No, and then it's a hazard for them on the battlefield because the enemy doesn't have to, have a code of conduct.
Agreed. Next? Nothing? Okay. I want to know what your ideal woman is, because if you are a traditional conservative woman who's married, staying at home, raising kids, you trash them.
There's no such thing.
Pearl does not seem like a carpet muncher. She's not given. I mean, I don't think straight women exist. All women are hetero-flexible because they're so temperamental and moody and flaky. But Pearl is not. She's not into other women.
A traditional woman. They cannot be traditional in 2025 because women will always have the leverage.
What does that mean? What does it mean that women will always have the leverage?
Women have child support to fall back on. Women have alimony. So automatically,
10% of divorces end with alimony settlements.
And
10%.
And they go.
You just ignore the stats.
They
You
go
just move
from
on.
men to women. They go from men to women. Billions of dollars every year.
I thought you said earlier that women are paying alimony.
Billions of dollars of wealth every year is transferred from men to women.
Mm-hmm. Based on what? Where are you getting that information from? You're just making it up?
Look, we have it. We're excited. We can get it to you at the end. You didn't want to submit. Where are your sources? You didn't want to submit them ahead of time. You did.
The Census Bureau, Bureau of Labor Statistics. I cited everything I mentioned. Pull it up. Pearl, the main thing I want people to understand, okay? Pearl's gonna trash women no matter what. That's fine.
I'm not trashing
But
them.
my biggest gripe with you is you're discouraging people from entering marriages.
I don't tell men what
Okay,
to
now
do.
say why. Say why though. Like that's not a good enough reason to have a gripe with someone.
Sell me on.
You
okay,
got this hat
advise
in
men
Honduras,
to
chat.
avoid marriage.
sell me on marriage. What do men get out of marriage?
That's sad. It's sad that people think that.
Oh, here comes the emotional stance. Sad. Pearl looking flustered. Yeah, she looks like her butt plug fell out and she can't find it.
It really is.
Kinsey said in the chat, Pearl is looking flustered. And that's why I said the butt plug comment, y'all. My bad.
You get a partner, you get a teammate, you get to build a life together, and it's beautiful.
That doesn't happen for most men. Most men are disenfranchised. You gotta look like me to get some hoes. And you gotta be neurotic. And you gotta be packing. And that's not how. No, and that's just a fairy tale. That's not even real. We need to. If America wants to get better, we got to get rid of Disney World. We need to stop letting everybody be so delusional, and then stop giving the pedos a place to congregate and hunt, and then like type select.
I feel like misery loves company in this situation.
What does that even mean? Oh, she's trying to shit on her for not being married. Well, but Pearl could get married tomorrow. She actually does have that pool. Her comments are fucking hilarious of just dudes telling her how pretty she is and how they want to lick her freckles.
And how would you know what you get out of marriage if you haven't experienced marriage in the first place? I'm not saying that as a personal attack. I really hope that Pearl meets the love of her life and gets married. It's not about that. But you trash it without really understanding what the benefits are.
Yeah, okay. And if you understand the other side so much, which you don't, what about men that want multiple loves of their lives? She's only arguing from her personal point of view, and that's it. And Pearl is arguing from someone else's, so that's why neither one. This is not like a classic infamous debate. It just has a bunch of clickbait and clippable moments.
Why do we have phrases like "it's cheaper to keep her"?
Pearl.
That's a true statement, though.
Answer the question.
Divorce.
Guys, I used to work in one of the most expensive restaurants in my city, and there was always super rich old men coming in, and a lot of times they would chop game with each other. So chopping game is different than giving game. Chopping game is when you exchange information with someone else that also has information to exchange. Giving game is when you enlighten and better someone's life. Got that from Sinful to P. But I already knew that before Sinful to P even told me that. So that was more of a chopping game. Anyway, these dudes would be like, oh yeah, I had my company in Puerto Rico buy my company in Montana, and taxes are way lower in Puerto Rico, and Montana doesn't have sales tax. They're teaching each other the ins and outs. And then I would always ask them, hey, yo, if you could get married again, would you, if you could go back in time, would you keep, and you knew you were going to be as successful as you are, would you keep the woman that you have now? Almost, I would say like 70% of them. These are super rich guys. I mean, like millions and millions of dollars. One guy in there was worth like 30 M's. I'm not gonna say his name, and I got his son's number because he's one of those people you can't even directly talk to him. You have to talk to someone that talks to someone that talks to him. But he was a cool dude. People would always come up to him. Other rich guys that weren't as rich as him would be like, "Yo, can I?" Because he'd have the nicer car. They'd be like, "Yo, can I test drive your version of this Ferrari?" And he'd be like, "Yeah." We'd just give him the keys and wouldn't even look.
Divorce
That's a nice demo. She was kind of cute.
is expensive. And by the way, on purpose to discourage people from getting divorced in the first place.
Why do we have phrases like happy wife, happy life?
And that's what I mean. They're not even okay. If you want women to have the chance to chase equality and you think they can get that by doing what they want on them, then you would be pro cheaper divorce. But you're not. You're not pro feminism either.
Because it's true. Same with happy husband, happy life. I don't want to come home to an angry husband.
But that's not a phrase.
Do you have any other like catchphrase or?
It's not. It's not. She homegirl need to just hammer down on what she's saying. Pearl actually should just have been more repetitive.
Slogan you want?
Yo, she might be on Xanax. She low key might be on Xanax. So that's probably white privilege. That like I say white privilege too much, but people just assume that she's not high. How do y'all know she's just not high as hell right now? I mean, she does date black dudes.
Throw at me.
What do men get out of marriage?
They
A hole.
get
A series of holes that are sometimes willing.
a partner.
That gains 25 pounds.
No, the gays get a partner. I'm old enough to remember only gay people were like, this is my partner. But when all these low testosterone, feminist, equalitative men started walking around, that's when men started, I don't use it, when men started saying my partner and they're talking about a woman. Like, no, that's my woman, my lady, my gal. That's not my partner. Men don't get a partner. Pearl is walking around as a walking Lexapro commercial. Oh, definitely. She's snorting.
In the first 5 years.
Men get pretty fat too. I don't know if you've done a comparative analysis on that. They actually end up gaining more weight than their wives do.
Yeah, but fat dudes are more fuckable than fat women. I'm not fucking either of them, but still.
And who cares?
Men.
Yeah, the people doing the thrusting, shorty. You see, all she gotta do is lift up a stomach, maybe, or something. That's not the same thing as like holding the legs, the stomach, the knees. Because none of these chicks stretch enough to where when you bend them over or fold them or put them in the pretzel, that they can hyperextend their knee and hold it that way for more than 2 milliseconds. She doesn't understand the burden.
I mean, have a conversation with your partner. Encourage her.
No, cheat today to avoid heartache tomorrow. Nah, I'm kidding. But for real, like, you know, women respond better to you being with hotter girls than you having a pleasant adult conversation with them.
Be an adult.
How can men and women be equal?
Especially if she's giving you children.
How can men and women be equal when one is expected to die for the other?
I don't expect anyone to die for anyone else. I don't know what that even comes from.
But men are
She got the Trump shoulders. Yeah, nobody's dying. Not today. Never. No one's ever died in my country. Ever.
willing to die for you every day. The men in the police force, the men in the military.
What about the women in the police force?
They're 10% and they cause so many problems.
Who cares what percentage women make up of the police force? They're in the police force. My sister.
Yo, women shouldn't be cops. Hold up, let's rewind this back a little bit.
I don't expect anyone to die for anyone else. I don't know what that even comes from.
Yeah, but men are willing to die for you every day. The men in the police force, the men in the military.
What about the women in the police force?
They're not.
They fold. Well, there's tons of videos of women officers folding under pressure.
They're 10% and they cause so many problems.
Yo, I would rather get stopped by a racist cop than a lady cop. I'm not even lying.
Who cares what percentage women make up of the police force? They're in the police.
Oh, so you don't care that female cops are more likely to shoot you than male cops per capita? Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
Force. My sister-in-law's a cop, actually.
They can't do the same jobs. There's videos on the internet
When I run for mayor, all you people here got to vote for me because I've been on the record for 10 years saying that women shouldn't be cops.
Women getting their guns taken because they're not strong enough.
Are you just making things up?
No, and actually, guys, I taught women self-defense for years. Women often get disarmed in assault situations. And if you know karate, and if you do the self-preservation techniques in karate, like if you're taught to kick a weapon out of people's hands, because most people don't block or check kicks, and that actually works. If someone pulls a gun on you and you know how to kick, I'm not saying you guys do it, because I don't know if you know how to kick, because I don't think I've put any videos up showing y'all. But if you know how to kick, you can actually disarm somebody with a gun. And yeah, women get disarmed from their guns all the time.
Pearl, what are you doing?
Have y'all seen that Predator versus Prey meme where they do the vision analysis of like a wolf versus a rabbit, whereas a wolf's center vision is like here, and their peripheral vision only goes to like their shoulders, but it's more sharp in that area. And the rabbit's peripheral vision is like from here all the way back, and their middle vision is just straight down the middle. That's basically the difference between men and women when it comes to danger and threat assessments.
Like, seriously. Next question.
Do you realize how good you have it in this country?
Absolutely.
Yeah, she a little high. Shorty is a little high.
Absolutely.
See, but the thing is, I'm not gonna tell you how to do drugs, but you got to take the other thing with the other thing. You don't just take the one thing.
Best country in the world.
And you get to live the life you live at the expense of men.
No, that's not true.
That is
yes,
true.
Yes, it is.
Show me how.
Do you know how many men die every year?
See, she should have said, "I need a man." That would have been the bomb. That would have been the bomb. This is basically like who's the bigger bitch contest.
There are men that die every year to get you crab.
How many women die every year during childbirth?
Not many.
This country has the highest maternal mortality rate of any developed country, so a lot of women do die.
Because our doctors hate us and can't critically think. That's not anything. So you know how many dudes pass out after they bust a nut and fall? Like how many of them get lightheaded? And Daisy, what about that? Huh?
As a result of pregnancy and childbirth, yes.
Chat, do you know that the biological reason that women have clits is because birth and labor and pregnancy is so laborious that mammals need a physical incentive female mammals need a physical incentive to procreate. That's why it's there. There's no other medical reason but to overstimulate pleasure. And a lot of women do and can fry their vasopressin, their oxytocin reserves, or serotonin reserves. So a lot of women struggle with depression, and that's why their bodies react to stimulation in different ways than ours and have more ways to be stimulated. It's an evolutionary adaptation. Yo, she's high. Man. She's high. She's definitely high.
Do you have any other questions for me?
Not right now.
All right. Should I move?
Yo, I can't believe I didn't notice it. I think it's because I'm watching it so up close that I'm noticing it. Yeah. Do y'all think Pearl was high? Answer me in the chat.
Like, what are we doing now?
Can I ask a couple questions?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, let's just jump in here. So why don't we do this? I'll ask you one and then I'll ask you one and we'll kind of go back and forth. I kind of half jokingly said at the beginning, like Pearl had mentioned, I think you actually said it here too, that you believe you may be more of a feminist.
Cermak said yes. Yeah, she's high. She's high as a kite. That's what's going on. He probably sold it to her. Look at his face. Look at him. He got that like he knows something look on. See, y'all, there's just one big club and we ain't in it.
Do you consider yourself to be a feminist, and how would you define that?
I don't consider myself to be a feminist.
Kenzie said absolutely zoinked.
Mainly because
Pearl's such a misogynist, she thought she could beat a woman in a debate while being crossfaded.
Because it's a loaded word and there are certain outcomes from certain waves of feminism that I don't agree with, particularly minimizing the importance of men in society. I do think that there is, especially the third wave of feminism that's done that. I personally really value masculine men. And
So, whoa. Let's dismantle that. First of all, if you're admitting that feminism bastardizes and attacks men, then answer why that is. Does someone secretly have an agenda? Are women just predatory and abusive in nature? Like, why would that happen? Especially for 2 generations in a row. For those of you, I'm trying to find this quote. For those of you that don't know, feminism is usually quoted to accomplishing its major points during the first wave. And by the time it got through with the second wave, it was just overkill. And the third wave is just known where you get all basically the retro feminists that we have now. So that's what she's trying to talk about. And then secondly, women do not know what masculinity is. Women conflate connotation versus annotation. Connotation is how you feel about words. Annotation is what they actually mean. Women will often confuse and misconstrue what masculinity is. And especially a lot of them will say that a man is masculine when really he's biologically masculine, meaning that he's bigger and stronger and has more dimorphism, which lets you know that he's physically a man easier. That's what they mean by masculinity, but they don't mean the characterization of, being a man of your word, having integrity, having testicular fortitude, being strong, being stable-minded, being stoic, being logical, being pragmatic. Well, a lot of women do not actually define masculinity well. You'll notice that a lot of times when women describe masculinity, they're describing guys who they find attractive, even if it's on a sapiosexual level. It's not the same thing as what the Boy Scouts would consider masculinity. You feel what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense in the chat, please.
I don't appreciate feminists speaking on behalf of all women in regard to what women prefer. I think the Me Too movement started off as a legitimate grievance with women who were legitimately abused, and it devolved into something laughable and ridiculous.
Yo, the Me Too movement caught me off guard, chat, because I was doing stand-up comedy at the time, and I had took a hiatus. I was doing actual stand-up comedy. I took a hiatus from social media, and a lot of times what comedians do, especially comedians that work the same circuit, which means like the same cities and the same clubs, is they'll steal each other's jokes, or they'll all share jokes, or just kind of do the same jokes for whatever reason, good, bad, or whatever in between. And a bunch of women just started getting on stage and saying, "Me too." And I thought this was just a bunch of unfunny bitches just trauma dumping. Some people try to use stand-up comedy as therapy. Please stop. Everybody hates that. But they kept doing it, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I wasn't on social media at all. I didn't know that it was a social media movement and that women are addicted to social media because it's just not real and they love delusion. Anyway, every single woman that I saw tell a Me Too story or Me Too joke, I had seen sexually assault someone else. And I was like, damn, this is hypocritical. It would be different if there was like one woman that was legitimately just nothing but a victim. But the first woman I saw do it, the first day, and mind you, I told you I've been doing karate. The first day I met her, she did not know me, didn't know I was coming, didn't know me from a wall of paint. She was drunk, grabbed my thigh and nicked my dick on purpose. The first time I met her, sexually assaulted me. She's on stage telling a Me Too story. Another chick had the same name as another male comedian who women always would say was attractive, and she would uncomfortably hit on him and tell jokes about wanting to sleep with someone that had the same name as her all the time. So I just kept hearing Me Too jokes, not knowing that, like, oh, this is a social media movement. So yeah, women like cucking everybody. Basically is what I'm saying. Women love to cuckold even each other. They just love taking the opportunity.
This, especially when, someone like Aziz Ansari gets accused of being like some sort of sexual predator when he clearly wasn't. So I just don't like how loaded that word is. What I actually genuinely want is equality among the sexes. I'm not looking for women to have an upper hand over men at all. But we need to be based in reality, and we need to look at the statistics and figure out what's really going on. If men are getting a raw deal as a result of divorces, then yeah, the laws need to change. And I genuinely thought prior to this debate that they were getting the raw end of the deal. But as I researched this, I realized I was believing in outdated myths. So, yeah.
Pearl, let me ask you this. Do you believe and obviously you are...
The belief that men get as much as women do for marriage is an outdated belief.
Citing a lot of anecdotal stories. I do think it's fair to point out every anecdotal story is someone's story, right? So they're not fake stories and they're not meaningless. Obviously, the people who live those realities, in a lot of cases, they're very painful. Because of your platform, you speak to a lot of those people. How much is that informing where you're coming from in this debate? Is the real stories of people who have been hurt by this stuff?
I mean, I've interviewed 1,000 people. I interviewed a guy who had his kid transitioned and there was nothing he could do about it. I interviewed another guy and he spent $300,000 trying to get his kid back. He actually went overseas to Ukraine during the war, just trying to be in his kid's life. So yeah, it impacts it a lot. Yeah, I've interviewed so many men that want nothing more than to just be a dad and see their kid. They don't even care about the money. They just want to see their children. And if you ask Anna, it doesn't exist, but if you ask...
Okay, so I believe she's genuine in that regard.
Any man, like everybody knows somebody that it's happened to. And commentators can, they can try to minimize it. They can talk from their ivory towers and pretend it's not happening, but there's a genocide of millions of men that's going on in this country.
Wait, we need to focus on Anna's face when Pearl was talking so we can decipher some of the womanese. Let's go back a little bit.
Just want to see their children.
So the focus is on Pearl.
And if you ask Anna,
they're gonna switch to the big screen.
If you ask,
you got both ladies up there.
Any man, everybody knows somebody that it's happened to, and commentators can, they can try to minimize.
Anna kind of got in her feelings because she realizes and from what I can tell, it looks like she thought about someone she knew and how she was arguing a point that doesn't favor someone that she actually cares about. So now she's probably going to transmute that energy into anger.
They can talk from their ivory towers and pretend it's not happening, but there's a genocide of millions of men that's going on in this country.
You use the word
genocide?
I was gonna say,
One.
I forgot where Anna's from, but I'm pretty sure her people were actually genocided, so that she's triggering Pearl. But Pearl's a ginger, and her people were genocided too, so whatever. And I made a joke when the stream first started about the Anglo-Saxon wars, which is basically white-on-white violence to an extreme. I would not be surprised if these two women's, both of their great-great-great-great-grandfathers had fought each other in battle.
0.6 million men commit suicide, have committed suicide since 1970.
Similar rates of women also attempt suicide, but fail because they usually don't resort to more violent means of ending their own lives.
Right,
so they'll take pills.
Yeah, but they've aborted women have aborted a fifth of the oncoming generation. That's crazy.
Why is it that every time we bring up men, you have to bring up women?
Because we're doing a comparative analysis here. You can't just throw out statistics without comparing it to what the rates are among women.
What I'm pointing out is, I just pointed out that by 2050, more men will have committed suicide than all of the world wars combined. And your first response was, well, women commit suicide.
More people have been aborted than all of the world wars combined. Think about that. More people have been yeeted from the program, kicked out of the game before it started, than all wars combined. So who's really the more violent gender? Given the opportunity, who's more violent, men or women?
Side too.
Because it is a problem that is inflicting both sexes in this country. It is a tragedy and should be taken seriously rather than this weird sex.
Yeah, do you believe that suicide is a first world problem? Is that still a narrative going around? Are people less likely to kill themselves in third world countries?
War, but it's not going to be taken seriously when you pretend it's not going on.
It is going on. Are you kidding me? I mean, how many of our soldiers, our veterans, come back to the United States after multiple deployments, do not get treatment or help with PTSD and other mental issues as a result of being deployed multiple times?
Right.
Like, that's a real problem. How come you don't talk about that?
Yeah, but
you blame it on marriage and divorce instead.
Right, because those soldiers come home to an empty house.
Okay, here it comes.
You think that divorce is the reason for most of these suicides?
Well, what Pearl is about to butcher because she doesn't know the facts. is that there's 4 main triggers for male suicide, and divorce is one of the leading indicators of it. I believe it is the 4th leading one, if not the 3rd, but neither one of them are getting that point.
Men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after
How many
divorce.
more times likely are women to commit suicide after a divorce?
What about the women?
You don't know the number,
What
right?
about-
Because you
what
didn't even
about-
care to look into it.
What about the women, though? That's always what you go to. And that's kind of what I'm trying to point out is feminists don't care about male issues. They don't. They do not care about equality. Because whenever you ask them for real equality,
So Pearl should have kept telling her, yeah, you're actually a feminist, bro. Like she should have kept pushing that and then stating what she was saying. So Anna would have to counter and say, I'm not a feminist. But the moderator openly asked her and she said no. And she should have just said, yeah, I concur. I think that she is and doesn't want to say it because it'll put her in a corner.
My point is that suicide is not just a male issue. It is a huge problem in this country. Women who try to end their own lives are less successful because, again, they're less likely to use a gun, for instance, or hang themselves. They'll take pills, it'll fail. It's just a tragic thing all around. But if you actually care about suicide rates, then you would want to know what's causing the suicide rates or the attempts at suicide.
Divorce.
What can we do as a society to help people to prevent that from happening? And you wouldn't make it specifically and solely.
I believe the indicators are classified as a loss of love, loss of status, loss of life, and I'm forgetting the 4th one. But there's just 4 indicators that people usually talk about.
Issue that inflicts one sex over the other.
Wait, what was the question?
And solely an issue that inflicts one sex over the other.
Paternity fraud. She already went over that. Women never, because I mean, there's not a functional equivalent that's being spat out right now, but women know if their child is theirs or not, you know, but men don't have that guarantee.
again, I mean, you're just proving my point because we talk about male issues, keep bringing it back to the women.
I just want you to compare the stats you're spewing right now with something to compare it to.
Okay. Do you think that women should be on the front lines of the military?
Police brutality. Men face police brutality way more than women do.
Like the men?
If they can pass the physical test necessary to do so, yeah.
They can't though. They're all lowered. You guys know that power steering was invented for women?
Do you think
Power steering in cars was invented for women?
women should be in selective service? Like the men?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and they should be on the front lines as infantrymen?
If they are physically capable of doing it, yes.
Okay, so no.
So you want to put people who aren't physically I mean, obese men wouldn't be put on the front lines.
Yeah, they need to be in the kitchen with the bitches. They know what tastes good.
Do you think women should be jailed for false accusations?
Death. I think they should get the death penalty.
Depends on what the false accusations are. If
Just
she's
yes or
falsely
no?
accusing someone of rape, for
Just
instance,
or no?
yes.
Just okay. Thank you. I agree. Do you think that child custody should be 50-50?
As long as the court determines that both parents are capable of being caretakers, yes. In fact, that's the ideal situation.
Okay, so yes.
Yes.
All right, do you believe in alimony?
I believe in alimony in specific cases where the woman decided to forego having a career.
I think I called it because Anna's getting strangely triggered right now when Pearl only rage baited her like twice. I think she struck a nerve and she just flared up, and now she's in, kill everything, destroy all humans mode.
And working, decided to stay home and raise the kids. In those cases, I believe she deserves alimony, yes.
But that's a privilege.
You're ridiculous. Next, move on.
You said it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous,
that it's a privilege
especially
to stay home with your
coming from a girl who grew up in an affluent situation with incredibly wealthy parents. You don't know anything about struggling economically or financially. So to tell a single mother who decided to stay home and raise her children instead of work that she doesn't deserve a penny.
A motherless woman telling a fertile woman what mothers deserve. What kind of wacky world do we live in?
To raise her kids after a divorce is the most privileged piece of shit thing to say.
This is...
People love humbling entitled people, or people that have a silver spoon, but yeah. Whatever. It's not that piece of shit of a thing to say.
Next.
This is the type of nagging that drives men to suicide.
Good. But I'm married and you're not, so.
See, she did not. That's the clippable moment, chat. She just rage baited her successfully, and that was her second. She's 2 for 2 when it comes to rage baiting this chick. I got to give her that. She's been losing this debate, but let me play that back one more time before we get out of here.
Piece of shit thing to say.
This is...
See, she thought she was cooking, right? She just roasted this girl for being born with a silver spoon, which she has no control over.
Next.
This is the type
Now she thinks she won over the audience.
of nagging that drives men to suicide.
Good.
And
But
then
I'm
she just
married and you're
lost it.
not, so.
Female emotionality right there for you, chat. Just couldn't keep it together. Couldn't stay humble.
Next.
Jesus Christ.
So if you guys aren't chronically on the internet, you didn't see this part get clipped a couple years ago or a couple months ago. This got clipped and this part stuck out the most to everyone. Pearl said this is nagging like this is why men kill themselves. And Anna said good. She didn't mean it. Look at her face. Like, let me zoom in. Am I covering up her face on Snapchat? Oh, Snapchat. I've had my gorgeous self covering her on the big screen right there. So let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see her face. And you can see what I'm talking about. Like, look at that. Oh, it's pretty zoomed in. It's pretty focused. Look at that. You got Quasimodo there on the right, and then you got Count Blackula on the left here. Look at her. She's like, oh fuck, what did I just say? Mind you, she's standing like 50 feet in front of a suicide prevention activist. So that was a real dickhead thing to say. But you know, this has been great. I like streaming with you guys tonight. I got to get to the gym. I got to lift some weight to make up for this personality that I have. But this has been awesome. So let me give you a goodbye. Farewell. Au revoir. The stream is finally over. I'll see you again tomorrow. Yeah, all right, y'all. Yeah, I'm gonna be streaming 6:30 Central Standard Time tomorrow. And if you would like to see any other specific content, you can comment it here below. I've been Tiger. This is Tiger Thinks. I appreciate y'all voting in the chat, commenting in the chat, and liking the stream. Deuces.
When I fuck it from the back, but I wanna see your face.